Billionaire visits her son's grave and finds a black waitress crying with a child. She was shocked. The light November rain turned the cemetery into a melancholy scene when Victoria Blackwood saw the scene that would change her life forever. There, in front of her son, Adrienne's marble tomb, a young black woman in a waitress uniform held a small child, both crying as if the world had ended. Victoria stopped abruptly, her gloved hands clenching the bouquet of white lilies. At 55, the heiress to the Blackwood Industries empire had never seen these two people before. But something about the woman's posture and the child's delicate features made her heart race inexplicably. "Excuse me," Victoria said, her voice cutting through the silence of the cemetery like a knife. "This is a private moment. You're in the wrong place." The young woman lifted her face, revealing eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone was coming today." Her voice trembled, but there was a dignity there that Victoria hadn't expected to find. "Who are you?" Victoria asked, her ruthless business instincts kicking in. "And why are you crying at my son's grave?" The child, a boy of about 4, looked up at Victoria with bright green eyes she knew all too well. Eyes she had seen in the mirror for decades, eyes identical to Adrienne's. "My name is Jasmine Washington," the young woman replied, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "And this is Tyler. I work at Belle's Diner in town. I come here every month because," she hesitated, looking at the child, "because Adrienne was important to us." Victoria felt the world spin. Adrienne had died 3 years ago in a car accident at the age of 28, taking with him all the dreams she had for the Blackwood family. She had investigated every detail of his life after the funeral, trying to find meaning in his loss. She had never found evidence of serious relationships, let alone a child. "Important how?" Victoria asked, her voice dropping an octave. The rain began to fall harder, but none of the three moved. Jasmine looked into Victoria's eyes with a courage that surprised the billionaire. "Because Tyler is his son, and because I promised her that I would always take care of him no matter what." The bouquet slipped from Victoria's hands, the flowers scattering across the cold stone of the grave. 3 years. 3 years she had mourned Adrienne's death, believing that her bloodline had died with him. 3 years to discover now that she had a grandson, a black grandson, raised by a waitress, living a life she could never have imagined. But there was something in Jasmine's eyes that didn't fit with the simple story she was telling. A caution, a hidden fear, as if she were keeping secrets much bigger than just Tyler's existence. What Victoria didn't know was that this revelation was only the first thread in a web of lies and betrayals involving people very close to her, and that Jasmine's apparent vulnerability hid a strength that was about to shake the foundations of Victoria's privileged world. If this story of family discoveries and buried secrets touched you, don't forget to subscribe to the Black Voices channel to find out how a chance encounter in a cemetery would turn into the biggest twist in the life of one of the most powerful women in the country. 2 weeks after the cemetery encounter, Victoria had turned her private library into a command center. Private investigator reports covered the century-old mahogany table, each page revealing details about Jasmine Washington's life that left her increasingly disturbed. Single, no known family. Works 60 hours a week at 2 jobs to support her child, Victoria muttered, leafing through the documents. Lives in a 1-bedroom apartment on the poor side of town. No formal education beyond high school. Her personal assistant, David Chun, stood silently beside the armchair. He had seen Victoria destroy corporate empires with less emotion than she was showing now. "What about the child's mother?" Victoria asked, her icy blue eyes fixed on a grainy photo of Tyler playing in a public playground. "Here's where it gets interesting," David said, opening a separate folder. "We couldn't find a birth certificate, hospital records, or any official documentation about who gave birth to Tyler. It's as if his biological mother never existed." Victoria tapped her fingers on the table, a habit her executives had learned to fear. 3 years ago, when Adrienne died, she had investigated every second of his life looking for meaning, for clues, for anything that would justify the loss. She had never found evidence of serious relationships. "Schedule a meeting with this Jasmine," Victoria said, pronouncing the name as if it were a foreign word. "In my office tomorrow at 2. The next day, Jasmine arrived at Blackwood Industries headquarters wearing her best and only suit purchased at a thrift store. The 60-story building seemed to challenge her to enter, its glass walls reflecting a distorted version of herself. Victoria welcomed her into her office on the top floor, where the windows offered a panoramic view of the city. It was a calculated display of power, and they both knew it. "Sit down," Victoria said, gesturing to a chair strategically positioned lower than hers. "We need to talk about Tyler." Jasmine remained standing. "I'd rather stand." "Thank you." "As you wish." Victoria opened a folder on the desk. "I've looked into you, Miss Washington. 2 jobs, no savings, living in conditions unsuitable for a child." "Tyler is well cared for and loved," Jasmine replied, her voice calm but firm. Victoria smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sure you do your best, but a Blackwood child deserves more than your best. He deserves the best money can buy." "And what exactly are you suggesting?" $200,000, Victoria said, sliding a check across the table to start. "Tyler comes to live with me, gets the education he deserves. The future Adrienne would have wanted for him. You can visit him on weekends, of course." Jasmine stared at the check as if it were a poisonous snake. "Are you trying to buy my son?" "He's not your son," Victoria said, her mask of civility beginning to slip. "He's my grandson. Blood of my blood. And frankly, a waitress in her 20s can't offer him what a family like ours can." "Family," Jasmine laughed. But there was no humor in the sound. "Victoria, may I call you Victoria? You want to hear about family?" "Tyler has called me Mom for 3 years. I wake up with him in the middle of the night when he has nightmares. I teach him math at the kitchen table. I read him bedtime stories. That's family." Victoria stood up, her height towering over Jasmine. "Noble sentiments, but the reality is harsh. You work like a slave to pay rent that probably eats up half your income. Tyler deserves private schools, trips around the world, opportunities you can never give him. And he deserves unconditional love," Jasmine replied. "Something you clearly didn't give your own son." The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria felt as if she had been slapped. "How dare you?" "Adrienne told me about you," Jasmine continued, her voice low but cutting. "About the missed meetings, the football games you never went to, the birthdays where you sent expensive gifts through assistants. You want Tyler because he's a second chance to clear your conscience, not because you truly care about him." Victoria clenched her fists. "You don't know me." "No, but I've met your son. And I know exactly why he never mentioned Tyler to you." Jasmine took the check and tore it in half, the pieces falling to the floor like wilted petals. "Tyler isn't for sale." "Then we'll do this the hard way," Victoria said, her voice taking on a dangerous edge. "I have resources you can't even imagine. Lawyers, investigators, connections at every level of government. I can prove that a single mother with no formal education living in poverty is not in the best interest of the child." Jasmine smiled for the first time since she had entered the office. And something in that smile made Victoria hesitate. "Victoria," Jasmine said softly, "you're assuming I'm just a poor waitress you can intimidate. But there are things about me, about Tyler, about Adrienne that you haven't discovered yet. And when you do," she paused, her eyes flashing with a determination that surprised the billionaire, "well, let's just say your investigators aren't as good as you think they are." She headed for the door, pausing only to look back over her shoulder. "And Victoria, the next time you want to talk about Tyler, it will be on my terms, not yours." After Jasmine left, Victoria stood alone in her office, the floor still littered with pieces of the torn check. For the first time in decades, someone had walked away from a negotiation with her holding all the cards. What Victoria couldn't understand was why a simple waitress displayed such unshakable confidence. It was as if Jasmine knew something, some secret, some card up her sleeve that rendered all of Victoria's threats and power irrelevant. Even more disturbing, for the first time in her life, Victoria Blackwood felt as if she were being watched, studied, evaluated by someone who saw right through all her defenses and wasn't at all impressed with what she found on the other side. 3 days after the confrontation in the office, Victoria received a call that left her stunned. Her lead attorney, Richard Thornton of the renowned firm Thornton and Associates, sounded nervous, something extremely rare in their 20 years of partnership. "Victoria, I need to tell you something about the custody case," he said, his voice tense. "I got a call today. Miss Washington's legal representation." "She hired a lawyer," Victoria laughed, drumming her fingers on the table. "With what money?" "It must be some unprepared public defender." "Actually," Richard paused. "It's Morrison, Caldwell, and Pierce. They're representing her pro bono." Victoria nearly spilled her coffee. Morrison, Caldwell, and Pierce was one of the 3 largest law firms in the country, specializing in civil rights cases and known for never losing a major court battle. "That's impossible. Why would they be interested in some waitress?" "I don't know. But there's more. They've already filed a preventive petition claiming that any attempt to forcibly remove the child would constitute legal kidnapping based on socioeconomic discrimination." Victoria hung up the phone hard enough to crack the receiver. Jasmine had played her first card, and it was a much more powerful card than Victoria had imagined possible. Meanwhile, in Jasmine's modest apartment, a very different meeting was taking place. The room was crowded with people Victoria would never have expected to find there. Dr. Michael Chun, a professor of law at Columbia University, investigative journalist Amanda Torres, known for her reports on corporate corruption, and at the center of it all, an elegant woman in her 50s whom Jasmine treated with obvious affection and respect. "And Helen, thank you for coming," Jasmine said, hugging the woman. "I know you had a long flight from Chicago." Helen Washington smiled, her intelligent eyes sparkling with the same fire Jasmine had shown in Victoria's office. "When you called me and said the time had finally come, I canceled all my appointments. We've been waiting for this moment for 3 years." Tyler played on the floor, oblivious to the importance of the conversation around him. Dr. Chun opened a thick folder filled with documents and photographs. "Jasmine, are you sure you want to do this?" he asked. "Once we start, there's no turning back. Victoria Blackwood has immense resources and will not hesitate to use all of them." "Dr. Chun," Jasmine replied, her voice calm but determined. "I've been preparing for this moment for 3 years. Every night class I've taken, every law book I've read, every contact I've cultivated, it's all been to protect Tyler and honor Adrienne's memory." Amanda Torres looked up from her laptop. "The evidence you've gathered is impressive, Jasmine." 3 years of meticulous documentation of Blackwood Industries' questionable business practices, including bribes to local politicians and systematic labor violations. Helen walked over to the window, looking out at the modest view from the apartment. "Victoria thinks her wealth makes her untouchable. She has no idea that my niece has spent the last 3 years studying her every move, every dirty deal, every tax evasion scheme." Aunt Helen taught business law at the University of Chicago for 30 years, Jasmine explained to Dr. Chun. "She's the one who taught me that knowledge is the only weapon they can't buy or steal from you." Jasmine's phone rang. It was Victoria, obviously furious. "What game are you playing?" Victoria yelled into the phone. "Morrison, Caldwell, and Pierce. How does a waitress get lawyers of that caliber?" Jasmine put the phone on speaker, allowing everyone to hear. "Victoria, I warned you that there were things about me you hadn't discovered yet. I don't care what tricks you're using. Tyler is my grandson, and I have unlimited resources to get what I want." "Unlimited resources?" Jasmine smiled, looking at her allies. "Victoria, you're assuming that money is the only kind of power there is. But what if I told you there's something much more powerful? And what would that be?" "The truth." Victoria laughed dismissively. "Truth doesn't pay expensive lawyers." "You're right," Jasmine agreed. "But the truth about your illegal business dealings, about how you built your empire through fraudulent contracts and systematic bribery, that truth is worth much more than money to certain people." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "You're bluffing," Victoria finally said, but her voice had lost its previous confidence. "Amanda Torres from the Metropolitan newspaper would like to speak with you," Jasmine said, handing the phone to the reporter. "Good afternoon, Miss Blackwood," Amanda said, her voice professional. I'm finishing up an investigative series on questionable corporate practices. I'd like to give you the opportunity to comment on the allegations we've documented." Victoria hung up immediately. Helen smiled, proud of her niece. "Jasmine, you've learned well. Never attack head-on when you can flank." Dr. Chun closed his briefcase. "The legal strategy is solid. We have precedents where attempts to remove children based purely on socioeconomic status have been deemed discriminatory. And I have 3 years of research on every dirty deal Victoria has ever made," Amanda added. "Contracts with shell companies, suspicious payments to public officials, covered-up environmental violations, enough to destroy any reputation." Jasmine picked up Tyler, the boy smiling innocently at the adults around him. "What Victoria doesn't understand is that I'm not just fighting for Tyler. I'm fighting against a system that believes money buys everything, including the right to destroy families." Helen approached, placing her hand on Jasmine's shoulder. "Your mother would be proud of you, daughter. She always said that education was the only inheritance no one could ever take away from you." "Aunt Helen raised me after my parents died," Jasmine explained to the others. "She taught me that it doesn't matter where you come from, but where you're going. And she taught me that sometimes to protect what you love, you have to be willing to go to war." The phone rang again. This time it was Victoria's lawyer. "Miss Washington, my client would like to propose a settlement. $500,000 and supervised visits." Jasmine looked at her allies, all shaking their heads. "Mr. Thornton, tell your client that Tyler is not for sale at any price, and tell her she has 48 hours to withdraw any legal threats against our family, or else. Or on Monday morning, the Metropolitan Journal will publish a full series on the questionable business practices of Blackwood Industries. And I'm sure the IRS will be very interested in some of the documents we've obtained." After hanging up, Amanda smiled. "Jasmine, are you ready for this? Once we publish, Victoria will use all her power against you." Jasmine looked at Tyler, who was now sleeping in her arms. "Amanda, I've lived for 3 years knowing this day would come. Victoria thinks her wealth makes her invincible, but she's never faced anyone who's had time to prepare properly." Dr. Chun stood up, gathering his papers. "The legal petition will be filed tomorrow. The precedents are on our side." Helen kissed Jasmine's forehead. "Remember, daughter, they may have the money, but we have the truth." That night, while Tyler slept, Jasmine opened a trunk in her room. Inside were diplomas from Knight Law School, certificates from management programs, letters of recommendation from renowned professors, and at the bottom, a photograph of her with Adrienne and a young woman with fair skin. The photograph Victoria had never seen. The photograph that explained not only who Tyler's mother was, but why Jasmine had prepared so meticulously for this confrontation. Victoria Blackwood was about to discover that underestimating someone can be the most costly mistake a person can make, and that sometimes the sweetest revenge doesn't come through force, but through patience, preparation, and the perfect moment to reveal truths that some people would do anything to keep buried. What Victoria didn't know yet was that the battle for Tyler's custody was only the first move in a much bigger game. A game Jasmine had been planning since the day Adrienne died. And one that was about to expose secrets that could destroy not only Victoria's reputation, but the entire empire she had built on lies. On Monday morning, Victoria woke up to 37 missed calls on her cell phone. Her assistant, David, was outside her bedroom door holding a tablet with an expression she had never seen before. Genuine fear. "Victoria, you need to see this," he said, handing her the device with trembling hands. The headline of the Metropolitan newspaper filled the screen. "Empire built on corruption. Leaked documents revealed decades of crimes at Blackwood Industries." Victoria felt her legs give way. Below the headline, dozens of scanned documents showed fraudulent contracts, illegal payments to politicians, money laundering schemes. Each page was a death sentence for her reputation. "How did they get this?" she whispered, scrolling through the article. There were photographs of secret meetings she was sure no one had documented. Recordings of conversations that should have been private. Her phone rang. It was Richard Thornton, her lawyer. "Victoria, it's a complete disaster," he said bluntly. "The IRS has already issued search warrants. The FBI is on its way to your home. And there's more. The Securities and Exchange Commission has suspended all trading of Blackwood Industries stock. Victoria hung up and immediately called Jasmine, her hands shaking with rage and despair. "You," she screamed when Jasmine answered. "You did this? How dare you destroy my life?" "Good morning, Victoria," Jasmine replied, her voice calm as a Sunday morning. "I imagine you've read the news. I'll destroy you. I'll use every resource I have to." "What resources?" Jasmine interrupted softly. "Because from what I'm seeing here on the news, your bank accounts were frozen 15 minutes ago." Victoria rushed to her computer, her hands frantically typing passwords into banking websites. "Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. This is impossible," she muttered. "Victoria, there's something my investigators didn't mention," Jasmine continued. "Amanda Torres doesn't work alone. She has a team specializing in financial crimes. Every document you've fraudulently signed in the last 20 years has been tracked. The television in the living room showed reporters in front of the Blackwood Industries building. Employees were leaving carrying boxes, their careers destroyed in the morning. The name she had built over decades was being smeared live on national television." "Why?" Victoria asked, her voice breaking. "Why do this to me?" "Because you never asked about Tyler's mother," Jasmine said simply. "If you had, you would have found out that her name was Jessica Blackwood." Victoria's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. Jessica was the daughter of Robert Blackwood, your cousin. The same cousin you betrayed in 1995 to steal his share of the family business." The memories came flooding back. Robert, young and confident, signing documents Victoria had altered. The family feud she had won through lies and manipulation. His expulsion from the family. "Jessica grew up poor because of your betrayal," Jasmine continued. "She met Adrienne in college. They fell in love, but she was afraid to tell him who she was, knowing you would kick her out of his life, just like you did to her father." Victoria vaguely remembered Robert mentioning a daughter before disappearing from their lives. "When Jessica died in childbirth, Adrienne came to me in desperation. I was her best friend and he knew Jessica wanted me to take care of Tyler. But Adrienne also discovered the truth about what you did to Jessica's family." "Adrienne knew?" Victoria whispered. "He spent the last months of his life investigating you, Victoria, gathering evidence of your crimes. When he died in that accident, he left everything to me: documents, recordings, proof. He asked me to wait for the right moment." Victoria looked out the window and saw FBI vans pulling up in front of her house. "The accident," she began. "It wasn't an accident," Jasmine said calmly. "Adrienne uncovered a money laundering scheme involving dangerous people. People you hired to take care of problems. They killed your own son, Victoria." The revelation hit Victoria like a shot. Adrienne had died because he had uncovered her crimes. She had killed her own son through her greed. "Tyler is the last legitimate Blackwood," Jasmine continued. "Jessica was the legal heir to a fortune you stole. And now, with all your accounts frozen and your company confiscated, Tyler finally got what was always his." Victoria heard heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. Authoritative voices shouting, "FBI." "You planned this for 3 years," Victoria whispered, finally understanding the magnitude of what had happened. "Adrienne taught me that patience is the key to revenge," Jasmine replied. "Every document I collected, every course I took, every contact I cultivated, all for this moment." The door burst open. Federal agents entered with arrest warrants. "Victoria Blackwood, you're under arrest for tax fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy." As the handcuffs clicked around her wrists, Victoria heard Jasmine one last time. "Tyler will grow up knowing the truth about his family. He'll know that justice, even when it's slow, always comes." Television cameras captured Victoria being led away in handcuffs. Her fall broadcast live to millions. The empire she had built on lies crumbled in a matter of hours. That afternoon, Jasmine sat in the park with Tyler, watching him play on the playground. Her phone rang. It was Helen. Daughter, I saw the news. How do you feel? Like Adrienne can finally rest in peace, Jasmine replied, watching Tyler laugh as he slid down the slide. And Tyler will grow up knowing that his family fought for justice, not revenge. What Victoria had discovered too late was that Jasmine wasn't just a determined waitress. She was the guardian of a stolen legacy, a woman who had turned 3 years of quiet preparation into the most perfect execution of justice the courts had ever witnessed. 2 years later, the Millbrook Women's State Prison was a very different place from the penthouse office Victoria had once commanded. Dressed in a standard orange uniform, she worked in the laundry for $2.50 an hour, an irony that was lost on no one. "Blackwood, you have a visitor," the guard announced. Victoria expected to see her former lawyer or some journalist. Instead, she found Jasmine in the visiting room, elegantly dressed in a navy blue suit that cost more than Victoria earned in 6 months. "I've come with news," Jasmine said confidently. "Tyler has just been accepted at Phillips Academy, the same school Adrienne attended. Full scholarship." Victoria felt a twinge of what might have been pride. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're his grandmother and because Tyler asked me if bad people can become good." Jasmine paused. "I told him it depended on whether they truly wanted to change." Jasmine opened a folder with photographs of Tyler smiling in his school uniform. "He's learning the violin just like his father. His teacher says he's a natural. How can you afford all this?" Jasmine smiled with genuine satisfaction. "The fortune you stole from Jessica's family was returned by the courts. Tyler is now heir to the entire legitimate Blackwood estate. Ironic, isn't it?" Victoria closed her eyes. "And you? What did you get out of all this?" "I got the chance to give Tyler what you never gave Adrienne. A family that puts love above money." Jasmine stood up. "And the peace of knowing that Jessica and Adrienne can finally rest." "Tyler, is he happy?" "He's loved," Jasmine replied. "And that's all that ever mattered." Meanwhile, Tyler ran through the garden of his new Connecticut home, a cozy property overlooking the lake. Jasmine watched from the porch, a framed MBA degree behind her. "Mom, can I play the violin for you?" Tyler shouted, running toward the house. "Of course, my love," Jasmine replied, thinking of how proud Adrienne would be. Helen Washington visited regularly, sharing family stories that Tyler carried with pride. "And Helen taught me that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies," Jasmine had explained to Tyler, "but building something so beautiful that they regret not being a part of it." Tyler would grow up knowing that his family had fought for dignity, not revenge. That even when the world seems unfair, there is always a clever way to rewrite the narrative. Victoria had tried to buy a grandson, but she had discovered that family cannot be bought. It is built through love and presence. She had lost everything because she confused power with value, money with dignity. Jasmine's real victory was not destroying Victoria. It was building a future where Tyler would never repeat the mistakes of the previous generation, where a child would grow up knowing that identity is not defined by skin color or bank account, but by strength of character. Victoria tried to use her money to steal Tyler. But she discovered that true love is priceless. Jasmine proved that persistence and intelligence always win over arrogance and prejudice. Hook 3. Have you ever faced someone who tried to diminish your dreams because of your origins? Leave a comment about how you reacted and subscribe to the Black Voices channel for more stories that prove that true family is built with love, not money.